So next, we're going to take remote intervention from Constance Bommelaer. Constance, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Constance, we are really happy that you could do this. Thank you for coming on board. So,
thank you very much for the opportunity to participate. Should I intervene now?
Yes, Constance, it's a real pleasure. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and apologies for not being able to be with you. I had planned to be in Addis, and unfortunately, due to a conflict of schedule, it was difficult for me to travel to Africa. Nonetheless, it's an honor and a pleasure to be able to participate to your discussion, even remotely. I had good discussions with Makane when we met for the IGF MAG meetings to prepare for the global IGF Brazil event. And I know that IGF Africa has been very well prepared and will make a significant contribution to internet governance discussions in 2015. So Makane very kindly invited me to say a few words about connecting the next billion, this effort we have launched at the global IGF. As you may be aware, the UN CSTD Working Group on Improvements to the IGF had issued a few recommendations for the Internet Governance Forum, and one of them was that the IGF should work towards more tangible outputs. Another recommendation was that a better link should be created between all the various IGFs, whether it's the global IGF or the regional, national initiatives. So in this spirit, the MAG decided this year to kickstart work on developing policy options for connecting the next billion. All the national, regional IGFs have been invited to make a contribution to this discussion that will culminate in a main session at IGF Brazil in November in João Pessoa. So definitely, given the context, given Africa's contribution to internet governance and participation to IGF discussions, IGF Africa's contribution to the track Connecting the Next Billion will be a very important contribution. So perhaps let me say a few words about this theme, why it was chosen, and where we are in the discussion, in the process today. So a few months ago now, we issued a call for background contributions. We received about 35 background contributions from intergovernmental organizations, the business community, civil society, governments. And on the basis of these contributions, we have discussed last week at the MAG meeting at UNESCO how to organize the substance of the output document that we will be presenting in João Pessoa. The national regional IGFs, of course, their contribution is very important. It will be singled out in the final output document, and we are expecting to have between, I would say, 10 and 15 IGFs contributing directly to the policy options for connecting the next billion. A few words about why we chose this theme. 2015 is a very important year, not only for the IGF because the mandate of the IGF is up for renewal, but also because we have a conjunction of two very important discussions, processes, and events. First of all, we have the 10-year review of the World Summit on the Information Society that will take place mid-December at the UN General Assembly in New York, and also because we have the Sustainable Development Summit that will be held end of September, again at the UN General Assembly in New York. Obviously, as the international community prepares for both of these tracks, the role of ICTs, and specifically the internet, in supporting the Sustainable Development Goals has become an obvious factor that needs to be taken on board and considered as we develop further our policy frameworks. So I would say that the theme Connecting the Next Billion at IGF 2015, as we develop these policy options, they will certainly resonate strongly, not only with the sustainable development community, but also with all the WSIS stakeholders that are preparing their contribution to the 10-year review of the WSIS in December. We know that at the origin, WSIS was about sustainable development. It was about bridging the digital divide. Of course, the discussions got more political with time, but with this 10-year review of the WSIS and the Sustainable Development Summit this year, it's a very good opportunity to remind ourselves that all these discussions are about development, sustainable development, and connecting the next billion in this context definitely is a very important piece of the puzzle. You will see in this coming week that we will be sending a report on the status of the discussions for IGF policy options for connecting the next billion. We have a draft structure for the output document. We have identified the main issues, the main policy issues, whether they relate to the physical infrastructure, whether they relate to digital literacy, whether they relate to affordability issues. And then the list of policy options, policy menus for consideration, not only for governments and IGOs, but also for the private sector or even leaders of NGOs and the technical community. A call to join the editorial group that will continue developing these policy options between now and IGF Brazil mid-November will be issued this week. And any interested stakeholders, leaders from IGF Africa, are absolutely welcome to join this effort and to contribute to defining, editing those policy options. We are hoping that once finalized at IGF Brazil, they will have a major impact. They will be shared with the WSIS community, the sustainable development community, but also with the relevant fora beyond the UN. We are hoping to present them at the WEF in Davos. We are hoping to present them in numerous fora where we think they could be of interest not only to policymakers, but also to leaders from the private sector. So thank you again for the opportunity to say a few words about this effort and the importance of IGF Africa's contribution to this effort. And I'm looking forward to the questions and to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Constance. This is Jameson speaking. Delegates, if you agree, that was quite insightful. Can we applaud Constance again? Can we appreciate? Thank you very much. You've given us some food for thoughts, especially for us to step up and be involved in this policy option definition and restructuring that will be coming up, especially the editorial group that she mentioned. So is there any question for her? Maybe before she leaves, can we take just one question for her? If you have any question for...
Yeah, you have.
Yes, just one question. Gentleman at the back.
Yes. I'm Moses again. My question to Constance is, why should we be focusing on policy instead of identifying the structural bottlenecks, the current impediments to issues that are constraining people from, being online? Are the real problems in policy, or there's something much more to that? Thank you.
Okay, Constance, did you hear the question?
Yes, I think so, but correct me if you think I haven't captured it well. So basically, the question is why is there a need to focus on the policy options while there are technical difficulties remaining and that need to be addressed? So if I've heard correctly the question, I will try to address it.
Yes, you're correct. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jimson. So when we started the effort of developing a framework for the IGF to work on policy options for connecting the next billion, it was quite something. First of all, because it is not really in the culture of the IGF to work towards tangible outputs. There have been some, messages, declarations coming out of some of the workshops, but nothing really organized and that would take the time of the MAG and the broader IGF community between the meetings. That's why sometimes you hear this expression, IGF intersessional work. I mean, for a very fancy and complicated word, it simply means that between the two different global IGF events, meetings, there is work continuing to be developed through working groups, through community forums, through webinars. So when we thought about how to organize this specific track, in addition to the best practices forums, which for the second year are now being organized, we thought we exactly had the same question as the one you just raised. And it was made clear, and hopefully in the framework that you will find on the IGF website is clear as well, that policy options should not only cover the policy frameworks organized by national governments, regulatory agencies, intergovernmental organizations, but should also cover the efforts of the private sector, the efforts of the NGOs, of the technical community. And in the same way, the list of issues that are addressed and discussed, and that we discussed extensively last week during the MAG meeting held in Paris, and Makane, you were sorely missed, I have to say, but I know you were tied in the African ministerial last week. Those issues not only are public policy issues, but also technical issues. So the goal and the intent of the effort is really to portray an exhaustive description of not only the policy, but also the technical, I mean, all the impediments that the community at large needs to address to better connect the next billion in the next decade. So in a nutshell, I would say that perhaps policy, the word policy in policy options is misleading. It is not only to cover public policy frameworks, but also from national governments and IGOs, but also efforts from the private sector and issues that appear in the technical field. So I hope that addresses the question.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. One, only that lady, one.
Okay, I have the support of the council on the top table that we could take one more question to balance the gender.
Yeah, thank you very much. Luendo Hamukoma from SOS Coalition. And it's actually a policy question directly related to gender. What are the gender frameworks that we use in the policy as it's being developed? What kind of research are you using, and how are we going to bridge the gender aspect of the digital divide?
Yeah, Constance?
Yes, so it's a very good question. Last week, again, during the MAG, because we have identified one of the 5 buckets of issues is about enabling individuals online. And in that bucket of issues, you find the issue of gender balance, youth, and other issues. Although it was decided last week that we should probably add the list of gender to the list of issues to explore, the principle in terms of methodology that was agreed by the MAG for this effort is really to work on the basis of contributions received. So I would even say that this is the specificity of this IGF contribution. It's bottom up, it's based on the contributions we will receive, and it will emphasize the contributions from the national regional IGFs. So just to say, perhaps in simple words, if we don't identify in the list of background contributions received extensive policy menus, recommendations in the field of gender, then very simply the output document would not cover, its final version would not cover those issues. The IGF Secretariat, of course, is doing extensive background research to prepare for these policy options. But again, the output document needs to be developed on the basis of contributions received. So to date, we have received contributions from the ITU, from World Bank, from a number of trade associations, from GSMA, from civil society, from the academic world. I believe that some of them have identified the issue of gender. And the effort that we will have to conduct in the following weeks is to put out the final draft skeleton of the output document, to invite any stakeholders, any institution, any individual that is interested to make additional background contributions. If you feel strongly that more should be said about gender, then your organization very concretely can send a background contribution or any suggestion to the IGF Secretariat, and those contributions will be reflected in the first full draft that will be made available in about 2 weeks from now. So I think again, this aspect of the methodology is quite important, because it really distinguishes the IGF with other forums, with other institutions, with other circles that produce outputs. The brand of the IGF really means that anything coming out of intersessional work, and specifically the policy options for connecting the next billion, must be developed on the basis of consensus and must be developed through a bottom-up methodology. So on the basis of contributions received.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Constance. Constance is in MAG, and we know you're doing a lot of work, you and your colleague in MAG. We thank you for all the wonderful work you are doing in preparation for IGF 2015. Can we give Constance another big round of applause for answering those questions excellently, and for all the challenges she has thrown back to us to contribute to the discussion. Let's take this challenge up. Let's enable our voices to be heard, and that is bottom-up. That is true bottom-up, multi-stakeholder approach. Again, thank you very much.
Merci, Constance.